Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The fractured land of Outland stretched out before Illidan Stormreach, a chaotic wasteland that bore the scars of endless battle. His eyes, hidden behind the blindfold that masked the terrible power of his sight, surveyed the horizon. Even without his physical eyes, the demonic energies that surrounded him gave him vision unlike any other. He could sense the dark presence lurking, the shadows that lingered even after his supposed victory over Kil'jaeden. Illidan stood atop a jagged cliff, the wind whipping his twin blades, warglaives of Azinoth, against his side. His victory over Kil'jaeden had come at a great cost, but it was hollow. The Burning Legion, the great scourge that threatened to consume everything, was not finished. Deep within the twisting realms of the Nether, they regrouped, preparing for an invasion that would make all previous attacks seem insignificant. He clenched his fists, his claws biting into his palms. He knew the truth. If the Legion's next assault succeeded, there would be no one left to stand against them. He could not fight them alone. He needed more warriors, ones who understood the depths of darkness and could wield the demonic power without succumbing to it. He needed more demon hunters. Master Illidan, the voice came from behind him, soft but steady. Camel Sunstrider, one of his closest allies, approached. His once noble face was now lined with the burden of leadership and the strain of fighting alongside Illidan. We've received reports of movement within the twisting nether. The Legion is stirring again. Illidan nodded, his suspicions confirmed. We don't have time to waste. Begin preparations. We're gonna need more than our current forces. Kael Talis frowned. Are you sure training more demon hunters? It's such a dangerous path. Illidan turned to him, his face unreadable beneath the blindfold, yet his voice held a tone of resolve. Dangerous, yes, but necessary. If we don't, be a world left to save. As Carol Thez turned to leave, Illidan allowed himself a moment to contemplate the risk. The process of becoming a demon hunter was not for the faint of heart. It required one to accept the very demonic essence they fought against, to stare into the abyss and dare it to consume them. Many would not survive, and of those who did, some would lose themselves to madness or corruption, but those who emerged victorious would be unstoppable. Far across the wastelands of Outland, a shadow stalked him. Manyev Shadowsung, the relentless warden who had pursued him since his escape from the Barrow prison, had never given up her hunt. Illidan knew she was coming, and though he respected her tenacity, he also pitied her single-minded obsession. She could never understand the burdens he carried, the choices he had to make. The training began in earnest. Illidan stood at the head of a group of recruits, hardened survivors from the battlefields of Azeroth and Outland. Their faces were a mixture of fear and defiance, aware that they were about to undergo a transformation that would either grant them immense power or destroy them entirely. Illidan could sense the doubt in them, the uncertainty. Look around you, Illidan commanded, his voice carrying over the wind. Look at the ruins of this world. This is what the Legion bring. Destruction, corruption, death. And they won't stop until everything we know is gone. We fight for survival. We fight for the future. But to do that, you must be willing to become something more. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. He began the initiation ritual, drawing out the feel energies from the very air around them. The recruits stood in a circle, their eyes wide with fear as they saw the green, fiery essence swirling toward them. This was the first test facing the raw power of the demons they sought to destroy. Each recruit screamed as the energy burned through them, reshaping their bodies, their minds, and their soul. Some collapsed, unable to withstand the transformation. Others gritted their teeth, pushing through the agony. Illidan watched with a cold, clinical gaze. Those who survived would become his new army, his new demon hunter. But not all would make it. Manyev Shadowsung had tracked him to the remote fortress in Outland. Her heart was as hardened as the armor she wore, every step driven by her unyielding belief that Illidan was a threat to all that was good and just in the world. She had pursued him across realms through war zones, never once questioning her mission. To her, Illidan was a blight, a cancer that needed to be excised before it could spread further. She crouched in the shadows, her keen eyes scanning the fortress grounds where Illidan's new recruits writhed in pain. Demon hunters. The very idea disgusted her. Illidan had taken it upon himself to create an army of beings who would wield the same vile power as the demons they fought. In her mind, it was only a matter of time before these so-called hunters became the very monsters they swore to destroy. Her fingers tightened around the hilt of her blades. She would not let that happen. Slipping silently through the underbrush, Maniev closed in on the fortress. She had no doubt that Illidan knew she was coming, but it didn't too matter. Her purpose was clear. She would stop him, no matter the cost. Illidan felt her presence before he saw her. It was a familiar sensation, a tugging in the back of his mind, like a shadow that refused to be shaken. He had always known this confrontation was inevitable. Mariev's obsession with him bordered on madness, but he couldn't deny her skill and her resolve. He found her standing on the edge of the training grounds, her eyes burning with fury as she watched the recruits undergo their transformation. "Still hunting me, Maniev," Illidan called, stepping out of the shadow. Maniev spun to face him, her blades already drawn. "I won't let you do this, Illidan. You were turning them into monsters just like yourself." Illidan chuckled darkly. "Monsters? You still don't understand. What I'm doing is the only way to stop the Legion. We cannot fight them by traditional means. We need power, greater power than they wield." "And at what cost?" Maniev spat. "How long before your precious demon hunters lose themselves to the very corruption they claim to fight?" Illidan Surrat's expression hardened. "That's so..." Maniev lunged at him, her blades aimed for his heart, but Illidan was faster. With a swift motion, he deflected her strike, his own blades flashing in the dim light. The two circled each other, their movements precise and lethal. "I don't expect you to understand," Illidan growled as their blades clashed. "You were too blinded by your own righteousness to see the bigger picture." Mariev's eyes narrowed. "And you were too blinded by your own arrogance to see that you were becoming the very thing you swore to fight." The battle raged on, neither willing to back down. But even as they fought, they both knew that this wasn't all the real enemy. The real threat was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its moment to strike. Kil'jaeden watched from the depths of the twisting nether, his eyes burning with malice. The pieces were falling into place. Soon, the time would come for the Burning Legion to strike, and when they did, not even Illidan's paladin's sights, precious demon hunters, would be able to stop them. He grinned, his monstrous form flickering with feel energy. The invasion had only just begun. Illidan and Mariev's blades clashed again, sending sparks flying in the darkening sky. Their duel was fierce, but neither truly fought with intent to kill. They knew their battle was a distraction, a continuation of their long history. Both were too skilled, too determined to give in, yet neither could deny the weight of the real threat looming above them, the Burning Legion. As they locked weapons once more, a sudden explosion ripped through the air. Both Illidan and Mariev were thrown backward by the force of the blast. Demonic energy surged around them, and the earth beneath their feet trembled as reality itself seemed to warp. Illidan recovered first, his keen senses telling him what had happened. The Burning Legion had begun its invasion. From the sky, portals opened one after another, like burning tears in the fabric of the world. Demons poured through, their twisted forms illuminated by the sickly green light of feel magic. Kil'jaeden's army was here, and it was larger than anything they faced before. Illidan's jaw tightened. He could sense Kil'jaeden's presence somewhere within the horde, directing the invasion. Maniev rose to her feet, her eyes wide with horror, as the sky was filled with the monstrous forms of the Legion's warrior. Her gaze shifted to Illidan, and for the first time in years, she hesitated. "Illidan," she whispered, the weight of the situation sinking in. Illidan sheathed his weapons and approached her, his face grim. "You can keep hunting me later, Maniev. Right now, we need to stop them." She looked at him, still burning with suspicion, but nodded. There was no choice. Their petty vendetta paled in comparison to the threat the Burning Legion posed. "What's the plan?" she asked, her voice edged with determination. "We fight," Illidan replied simply, "and we win." He turned to his newly trained demon hunters, many of them still recovering from their initiations, but all hardened by the experience. "This is the moment you've been preparing for," Enchanting shouted to them, his voice rising above the chaos. "The Burning Legion is here, and we are the only ones who can stop them. Remember why you became demon hunters. Remember what is at stake. Fight and make them fear us." The recruits, though nervous, roared in response, their hands tightening around their weapon. This was what they had been born into, and now they had to prove themselves in battle. The feel energy within them stirred as they prepared to face the demonic onslaught. Mediev fell into step beside Illidan as they led the charge toward the front line. Together they faced the first wave of demons, cutting through the ranks with practiced precision. The battlefield was chaos demon, hunters battling their twisted counterparts, and Madiev's swift, lethal strikes felling demons as they surged forward. Illidan's recruits fought valiantly, but he could sense their struggle. The feel power within them was a double-edged sword, giving them the strength to face the demons, but tempting them to lose themselves to the darkness. Illidan moved through the battlefield like a whirlwind, guiding his followers, pushing back the tide of demons, but always keeping an eye on the larger picture. In the distance, Kil'jaeden's massive form loomed, directing the invasion from the heart of the Burning Legion's forces. His malevolent gaze was fixed on Illidan, and the two exchanged a silent acknowledgement. This was the true battle. The clash between them would decide the fate of not only Outland, but all world. As the battle raged on, Illidan fought his way through the endless waves of demons, always moving toward Kil'jaeden. His twin blades cleaved through demonic flesh, each strike fueled by the fell energy coursing through his veins. But even as he fought, he could feel the pull of the darkness within him. It whispered to him, urging him to give in, to embrace the full power of the Legion and crush his enemies once and for all. He ignored it. Beside him, Mediev fought with equal ferocity. Her blades were a blur of motion, cutting down demons with ruthless efficiency. Yet, even as she fought, she couldn't help but glance at Illidan. For years, she had hunted him, convinced that he was nothing more than a monster. But now, seeing him fight, seeing the weight he carried on his shoulders, a sliver of doubt crept into her mind. Was it possible that he truly fought for something greater than himself? The battle seemed endless, the demons pouring through the portals faster than they could be killed. But Illidan and his forces pressed on, inching ever closer to Kil'jaeden. The ground shook as massive infernals landed, their molten bodies smashing into the battlefield, creating craters and sending shockwaves through the rank. Illidan leaped onto one of the infernals, driving his glaives deep into its fiery core before leaping off as it collapsed in a heap of molten rock. As the demon hunters fought alongside Madiev's forces, the battle reached its peak. Kil'jaeden, seeing Illidan approaching, unleashed a torrent of feel fire that scorched the earth. Illidan barely dodged the attack, his wings flaring as he soared above the battlefield, his eyes locked on the demon lord. "You cannot defeat me," Kil'jaeden's voice boomed across the battlefield, filled with a mixture of rage and amusement. "You may have bested me before, but this time, I will not fall so easily." Illidan landed before Kil'jaeden, his blades raised. "I am not the same as I was before." Caesar, he growled. "Neither is the Burning Legion." Kil'jaeden laughed, a sound that echoed with malice. "How you think your pitiful army of demon hunters can stop me? You are nothing more than a tool of the Legion, just like the rest of them. You will fall, Illidan, and when you do, all will burn." Illidan didn't respond. Instead, he launched himself at Kil'jaeden, his glaives flashing in the dim light as they clashed against the demon lord's massive form. The force of their battle sent shockwaves across the battlefield, demons and mortals alike stumbling as the ground trembled beneath them. Kil'jaeden's power was immense, his strikes like hammers of molten fire, but Illidan was relentless. He danced around the demon lord, using his speed and agility to avoid the worst of the attacks while landing blow after blow with his blade. Still, it wasn't enough. Kil'jaeden's sound power was too great, and Illidan could feel himself tiring. And then, just as Kil'jaeden prepared to land a killing blow, a flash of steel and shadow intervened. Mediev, leaping from the chaos of battle, deflected Kil'jaeden's strike with a skill and precision that left even Illidan momentarily surprised. "Don't get yourself killed, Illidan," she spat, her eyes never leaving Kil'jaeden as she joined him in the fight. "We're not done with each other yet." The two warriors fought side by side, their combined strength finally starting to push Kil'jaeden back. Madiev's strikes were as precise as Illidan's and were powerful, and together they began to turn the tide of the battle. But Kil'jaeden was not so easily defeated. With a roar of fury, he unleashed a wave of feel energy that sent both Illidan and Mediev flying backward. The demon lord raised his hands, calling forth the full might of the Legion. The ground beneath them cracked and shattered as portals opened all around, more demons pouring through, their numbers overwhelming. Illidan struggled to his feet, his body battered and bruised, but he refused to give up. He had come too far to fail. Now he could feel the darkness within him rising, the feel energy pulsing through his veins, begging to be unleashed. And in that moment, Illidan made a choice. He reached deep within himself, tapping into the full power of the feel energy, allowing it to flood through him. His body glowed with green fire as the demonic energy surged, but he held on to his will, refusing to let it consume him completely. He became a conduit of pure power, a force to be reckoned with. With a final, powerful strike, Illidan drove his glaives into Kil'jaeden's chest, the force of the blow sending a shockwave across the battlefield. Kil'jaeden roared in pain, his massive form crumbling under the weight of Illidan's sign power. The demon lord's body began to dissolve, pulled back into the twisting nether from which he had come. "This is not the end," Kil'jaeden growled as he faded from existence. "Meaty, the Legion, will return." Illidan stood over the fading form of Kil'jaeden, his chest heaving with exhaustion. The battle was won, but the cost had been great. He could feel the weight of the feel energy still coursing through him, a constant reminder of the darkness he had embraced. Madiev approached him, her expression unreadable for a moment. The two stood in silence, the battlefield around them eerily quiet, as the last of the demons fell. "You used the feel," Madiev said finally, her voice low. Illidan nodded. It was the only way to stop him. "And now?" she asked, her eyes searching his face for some sign of the man he once was. Illidan looked out at the horizon, his gaze distant. "How now we prepare for what comes next. The Legion will return, and when they do, we will be ready." Madiev said nothing more. She turned and walked away, leaving Illidan standing alone in the aftermath of the battle. As the sky cleared and the portals closed, Illidan knew that the war was far from over. But for now, they had won, and with his new army of demon hunters, they would be ready for whatever came next.